Well, Seattle tried to once again bring it back in the Club World Cup, but going up against a good team like Atletico Madrid, it's always going to be tough to do that when you concede in the first 10 or so minutes. This is Anderson Hirst, host of, so much now. I work for 93.3 KJR FM. I'm the host of the Mariners postcast here on Locked On Sports, and I am your soccer coverage expert when it comes to Emerald City Spectrum. So, in the second game of the Club World Cup, the Seattle Sounders drop this one 3-1 to Atletico Madrid. In most phases, they were outclassed, but I would say it was a closer match than I was expecting. We talked after the last game against Botafogo, thinking like, if you're looking at the bigger picture here with in regards to both MLS and the Seattle Sounders, the idea here is just to not get embarrassed. You want to prove that you can play with these teams. And while Atletico Madrid is a step up from Botafogo in terms of quality, it didn't seem like it was that big of a gap for the Seattle Sounders. I think, during the most of the first half, Atletico Madrid were showing their quality, including when they scored their goal. I was at the game. It seemed like most of the first half, the ball was in the Seattle Sounders defensive end. And that's where it was like, okay, this team can really, crank it up a notch in terms of keeping possession in dangerous areas, putting chances on goal for Stefan Frei. But Seattle kind of held their own after conceding the first goal in the 11th minute to Barrios, which was a fantastically taken goal, by the way. That in itself showed how much quality there really is in La Liga and in other leagues across Europe. And it was a well-taken goal, just a perfect team move down the right side, cut back to the top of the box, and just a perfect finish that Stefan Frei can do nothing about. No keeper in the world makes that save. And he slots it home for the 1-0 lead. Seattle would reply in terms of just the overall run of play, though. During the second part of the first half, they started to kind of get their groove a little bit, find chances in on goal. It's the final quality and that's where I think you will notice the biggest difference between an MLS side like Seattle Sounders and the top European teams, even some South American teams as well, where it's that final quality, being able to make that final pass, and then the finishing aspect as well. I think the Sounders are really hurting without having a true striker like Jordan Morris healthy. Brian Schmetzer did mention going into this game that he was available, but there were major questions whether, that was kind of more for name value than anything else, because I don't think he's 100% back from his hamstring injury just yet. But it would have been nice to have him healthy for this tournament. I think they're missing two guys right now. And we talked about Yeimar Gomez Andrade last episode when talking about the Botafogo game, who, by the way, beat PSG 1-0, which is another surprising result when it comes to, the European teams going up against those South American teams. The South American teams have had a lot of success in this tournament. So I think there's going to be I don't think it's just a hard gone conclusion that it's going to be a European team that wins this tournament. So I've had a fun time watching not just the Sounders, but other matches as well so far. But overall, back to the Sounders game, that's where the difference is. It's in the final third. You notice the ability to keep the ball in certain places, making the right decision with pressure on you, and then just having the technical quality to make those finishes. Pablo Barrios, just go ahead and watch that first goal that he scored. It's fantastic. It's just a great team goal, and then finished off with absolute class from the Spaniard. And Atletico Madrid go up 1-0. Coming out of halftime, the Sounders would, Atletico Madrid would make a change, bringing on Axel Witsel, and he immediately makes an impact. It was just a well-taken goal, kind of a deflection in there, and he ends up, Atletico gets it down the left side, I believe, and then just pops a ball over the top. And then Axel Witzel's there just to tap in the header. Again, well-worked goal in a position where you're being optimistic, taking advantage. I don't want to say of mistakes for Seattle, but it wasn't defended completely up to par. And just having someone there to tap it home is a huge, huge, big thing for them, especially being up only 1-0 at halftime and having the Sounders kind of work themselves back into it. I think it was big in terms for Atletico Madrid to get that second goal and kind of make themselves known. However, the Sounders would answer quickly back with Albert Rusnak, a well-taken goal in the second half, the 50th minute. He, I think, really struggled overall, especially in that first half, to kind of get himself on the ball, get himself in dangerous places. But he finally found himself in a good spot in that early part of the second half, and he would slot home a good. It was a deflected finish, but still, he ends up getting credit for the goal. It was a well-worked goal for the Sounders. But unfortunately, so you have 3 goals within a span of 7-8 minutes, because Pablo Barrios 5 minutes later, the guy who scored the first goal, ends up scoring the second goal as well. It was a decent ball from the right-hand side coming in, and Barrios would end up finishing it to make it 3-1 Atletico Madrid. Then the Sounders would end up making some changes. Jesus Ferreira coming in for Danny Musovski, Ryan Kent for Pedro de la Vega. I just think overall, in general, the Sounders were outclassed, not necessarily in the middle of the park. I was impressed by Obed Vargas. I was impressed by Christian Roldan. And after he kind of grew into the game a little bit, I was impressed with Albert Rusnak. But De La Vega and Rothrock were the starting wingers, and then Munungu and Ryan Kent came into the game, and all 4 of them, you could say they just couldn't find places to get the balls in dangerous areas, and it was the opposite that you could say about Atletico Madrid. I think the best player on the pitch was Giuliano Simeone. He ends up assisting the first goal. I know Barrios scores 2 goals. He was a fantastic player on the left-hand side, but Simeone was just a constant threat down the right-hand side, always, putting pressure on the outside backs, putting pressure on the goalkeeper when even the Sounders had the ball, but then every time he got the ball, just so direct, so quick, and a ton of quality as well. So it was just a really a tough day for the Sounders outside backs. Reed Baker-Whiting, a 20-year-old local guy, expected to step in and do the job. I think he did admirably, but he was definitely outclassed by Giuliano Simeone. And Kalani Rienzi, I actually think, had a pretty good game. It's tough when you look at the guy who scores 2 goals came from his wing, but on the opposite side. So the first thing you look to is, he had a bad game. I actually think he did pretty well. He should have had a little bit more help. I think John Bell and Jackson Reagan were the ones that really struggled on the back line for Seattle. And it's to be expected. This is a top team. This is, I would say, at least top 10 team in this overall tournament and borderline top 5. I think they can have the pieces to go all the way. They're really good defensively. They have one of the best goalkeepers in the world. They have a couple of the best attackers in the world in Julian Alves and Antoine Griezmann, who came on as a substitute in the second half. And then, like I said, their wingers are some of the most underrated players in the world. Giuliano Simeone and Pablo Barrios both just played absolutely fantastic soccer today. Danny Musovski also struggled. I was a little surprised to see him in there and not someone like Jesus Ferreira, who has shown better stretches lately, or even a Ryan Kent. And then you can move like a Pedro de la Vega up top. I don't know. Danny Musovski had his stretches during the middle part of the MLS season, but it seems like he's come back down to earth as a kind of a substitute / rotational striker piece in the MLS. So him starting in a big Club World Cup match like this was a little surprising to me. I understand the profile fits a little bit better as he's kind of more of a hold-up striker, but I just think in matches like this, you got to get your best 11 players that are available at least on the pitch. So overall, like I said, I think overall, if you're thinking bigger picture here for the Sounders and MLS, it's another game where you don't get blown out of the water. I think these are teams that are not just coming in a preseason mode. This is a competitive tournament with lots of money on the line. So them playing on the same level is just a step up than even I was expecting coming into this tournament. That's the biggest thing to take away from at least these first 2 games. We'll see what happens with PSG on Monday, and you will get a similar recap, instant reaction from me, myself, Anders Hirst, your soccer coverage expert on Emerald City Spectrum. So be sure to look out for that, and we'll talk to you guys then. Really appreciate you guys hanging out. You can find all your soccer coverage on Emerald City Spectrum. We're going to talk. I'm going to have a piece after the Sounders group stage matches. So after the PSG game, I will do one of these videos for just the PSG game, and then I'm going to do a bigger kind of picture piece on how they were performing overall throughout the group stage. So I don't think there's much the Sounders can move on, because PSG, like I said, they lost, so they will have to come in and win this game. And I don't even think if the Sounders end up winning against PSG, I'd have to look at the numbers. But like I said, I'm looking bigger picture here. I think the Sounders are just trying to prove that they can play on the same field as a lot of these teams. I think job done in Botafogo. I know you get, I would say they deserved a better result in that game. I would probably, if I was drawing up the who deserved what, it would have been a draw for the Botafogo game. I think Atletico Madrid deserved to win this game, but the Sounders were not completely outclassed in every aspect of the game. They had their chances. They had their moments. It's just the quality of those Atletico players that came through in the end. So hopefully we have something similar or even a better version of that against PSG on Monday, and I'll talk to you guys then. Thanks so much. Thanks for subscribing to Emerald City Spectrum, and we'll talk